Hello guys, I'm Cristina Gutiérrez, X44 team. I'm very excited to be here in Alula, a nice place. We changed my Dakar rally for this car. I'm very excited to be part of the Extreme E. Looking forward to see this very nice championship with us and can't wait to get on track.
Very, very hard sometimes to believe in something if you can't see it. Wouldn't it be great to be a part of something that really does make a difference? Where I am in my life, I'm looking to see how I can have a positive impact on the planet. Particularly over the last 10 years, there's been a huge focus on education. People understanding what is happening in the world is becoming more and more of an issue. I've grown up in a normally aspirated engine world. Like, I love V12s, I love V10s. I'm never gonna love an electric car. Then I got an electric car, and they are so much fun. It's so impressive, the power delivery, there's no delay. And that's probably the biggest shock, is just how much torque you're able to get. Now I'm like converting all the cars that like Mercedes provide me. I want it to be fully electric. Sport has an opportunity to help raise awareness. There is a platform. And the reason I really love Extreme E, we're ticking off two boxes. You get to do the racing, the entertainment, fun stuff, but actually at the core of it, the real reason that we're there is to raise awareness for the issues that are in those places. Growing up in motor racing my whole life since I was 8, it has been a male-dominated sport. It still is a strongly male-dominated sport, and I really think that needs to change. There are a lot of young girls out there that need to know that there is opportunity for them in motorsport. I'm really excited to see the difference that they bring and the message that we're able to project. My role is more like I would say the visionary. I know what I want. I know how I want my team to look. I'm trying to put together the best team. The first time I've ever had to choose drivers. From a driver's perspective, I'm always looking for someone that's pushing the limits. We got Cristina Gutiérrez, having won multiple championships but leading the first stage of the Dakar rally. Reliability and consistency is very, very key. We go into these places where understanding how to look after the car in those climates is going to be key. So I think that she's going to be a great asset for the team. Sébastien Loeb, 9-time world champion, he dominated the rally world. You know, they know what to do in their car. I can't tell them what to do in the car. But in the back, setting up the team, making sure that we've got the right people so that we deliver over and above. I could have only ever dreamed of owning a team. It's quite an exciting new prospect that I think is, you know, it's going to be exciting for people to see something different.
Pues muy bien, la verdad es que muy contenta de estar aquí, de conocer a toda esta gente que son los top de todas las disciplinas del mundo del motor y nada, muy contenta de estar aquí, de estar en el equipo de X44 y de disfrutar. Una oportunidad de crecer como piloto, de saber los secretos de conducción que tienen, de cómo afrontan las carreras, entonces estoy aprendiendo mucho. Es algo que no voy a olvidar nunca y que probablemente lo aproveche como una esponja al máximo nivel, o sea que muy bien. Aquí es un poquito diferente que en un Dakar, normalmente estamos haciendo 300 kilómetros, aquí son 8, entonces la sensación de carrera es diferente y intentaremos adaptarnos al coche lo más rápido que se pueda y disfrutar. Bueno, la verdad es que es muy diferente, principalmente porque este año he competido en vehículos ligeros, es un buggy pequeño, este es un buggy grande, 4x4. Claro que el tema del motor eléctrico es bastante diferente, se nota muy diferente al coche de gasolina.
Por ejemplo, ¿cuáles son las diferencias?
Bueno, pues la aceleración básicamente es mucho más, el no oír nada ya te hace cambiar mucho la forma de conducción y no lo sabía, porque muchas veces no sabes que conduces con el oído y ahora me estoy dando cuenta de que sí, que usas mucho el oído. Las frenadas son diferentes, entonces te tienes que ir adaptando, ahora tampoco podemos modificar muchas cosas, con lo cual es más nuestra adaptación al coche que al revés y nada, pues eso, a intentar hacer en los pocos kilómetros que tenemos y sacarle el máximo provecho.
Welcome to Extreme E, an all-electric racing series with a purpose, to raise awareness of climate change.
And we start here in the remote deserts of Saudi Arabia. Around the canyons of Al Ula, the Extreme E teams, 9 men and 9 women, will do battle across a car-breaking landscape of rocks and sand. The 8.8-kilometre course is breathtakingly beautiful, but it will test every car to its limit. Hello and a very warm welcome to Al Ula in Saudi Arabia in the desert, and to a genuine piece of motorsport history, the first event of the Extreme E calendar. Before we go any further, if you want to know all about Extreme E, here's your starter pack. It's been 4 years in the making, but Extreme E is finally here, and what an incredible place to begin this story. It's a totally alien environment, and that sounds about right, because the teams and the drivers all say it feels like they're on another planet. It's an 8.8 kilometer course through canyons, across deep sand dunes, huge rocks and treacherous climbs and drops. So hold your breath and let's go for a run through it.
Round one of the Extreme E Championship will be held on this 8.8 kilometre circuit situated in the heart of the Saudi Arabian desert. A course built around this incredible dramatic landscape to highlight the effects of desertification on this delicate ecosystem. The course is made up of gates that the drivers must pass through, but with no track limits, the teams can choose their own line around the course for the best lap time. So away from the starting area, it's a very long run up to what is effectively turn one. Now that won't matter when you're running on your own in the time trials. In the race section of the event, you're going to want to get there first because of the dust. There are many sandy, bumpy sections to the track, undulations, and it's about how hard you can attack them. How much can the Odyssey 21 take? How quickly can you pass over the very difficult terrain? Slowest part of the course up at the far end, through a dry riverbed, and then around a hairpin left, which takes you around the back side of the course and to the most dramatic feature of all. More than 45 degrees, a 100-metre drop straight down a sand dune into a narrow gate at the bottom. Side by side there, things are going to get very tricky indeed. Undulations again, changing between road surfaces, sand, gravel, rocks. There's some undergrowth out there too. The drivers are going to have to pick their line, but they're going to be able to choose their line. Separate paths, which one's quicker? Does it give you an opportunity to take some time off a competitor, or maybe be able to make a pass? Another downhill section here, coming towards the end of the lap, and it's another transition from sand onto gravel. This might suit the rally drivers just a little bit more, passing onto a road which effectively is the last track. But by now, I think you'll know whether you're going to take the checkered flag first or not. There is the finish, and that is a lap of Al Ula.
Well, it's almost time for qualifying, and Andrew.
I am joined on the grid by 9-time World Rally champion and the first ever driver to cross the Extreme E start line on our inaugural event, Sébastien Loeb. How are you feeling? What's going through your mind right now?
For sure, I'm excited to start the race now. Difficult to know what to expect. It will be our first real race with this car. I'm really looking forward. The place is beautiful, the car feels really well, so I will try my best. I hope we can do something good.
As the first driver through the start line, and with this event having so much purpose, does that add extra importance for you?
For sure, it's a bit of pressure to be the first one to start. So I will try to be concentrated, try to do a good stage, trying to avoid a mistake. It will be important to go to the finish, so it's tricky. We will need to be concentrated and to do it well, so it's what I will try to do.
Thank you so much. Enjoy the race.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have fun.
Well, Sébastien Loeb, one of our key drivers and the first man to take to this course in the X44, the purple colours chosen by Lewis Hamilton, the Formula One world champion 7 times over. And what a stunning backdrop, Andrew Coley, this is. What a stunning day it is to go off and do qualifying.
Yeah, very exciting, isn't it? And I think it's quite fitting, really. You know, the only person with more FIA world titles, I think, than Lewis is Sébastien, so we might as well get him stuck into the course first of all. It doesn't get much more legendary, does it? Interesting that he says there's a bit of pressure. Interesting also that the sun is so low. Remember, local time is only 07:20. So in terms of driver visibility, look at the canyons and the darkness which could be across. It's going to be interesting to see if that changes. It may actually be an advantage from a visibility point of view to run later in the session, but is the track going to get cut up?
Well, I spoke to Professor Richard Washington about this, and he said that actually when you're looking at the desert, it's constantly shifting, the light is constantly changing. All of that sandstone makes it almost like an illusion, so the drivers are going to have to be very aware of what's happening of their surroundings, and that they're only going to get one bite of the cherry, so they've got to go out and perform straight away.
And it's both drivers as well, remember, so this is the first time we're going to see a complete run, which is 2 laps. So first lap for your first driver into the switch zone. There's a minimum time in the switch zone before you go out for your second lap. That's when, on this occasion, the female driver will take over, which is Cristina Gutiérrez. Interesting, you know, Loeb's going first. I think that's probably so he can jump on the radio afterwards and talk Cristina through anything that he sees. But she is a very, very good driver herself. I think 5 Dakar finishes, is it, Jenny, under her belt?
Yep, it certainly is. So there's a lot of experience, a lot of talent going into this. And yes, slightly different disciplines sometimes, but this is the joy of this championship and the series. It brings people into it. So let's have a look at this course and we can show you exactly what the drivers and Sébastien Loeb are going to have to contend with. So a long run down to gate 1. Fine today, but when it comes to the racing tomorrow, 3 cars going to that could be potential jeopardy. Then they get up to turn 2 and sling around onto a very gravelly section of the track, and this prepares us for what is, I think, one of the most spectacular events I've seen in motorsport. The run to the ravine through gate 3. They go up the hill, very careful not to clip the gate, which we saw yesterday, down that ravine, 45-degree angle, 100 meters. Wait, it'll wake you up, that's for sure. Then through to gates 4, they build up speed towards gate 5, which they do a slingshot around that big rocky section, treacherous as well, with roots and all sorts of gravel there. And then a fast track down to gate 7, through to 8, and then back to the switch zone. And Andrew Coley, we are almost ready to go. Sébastien Loeb is on his start line.
It is indeed finally time for a green light and for the clocks to start as well. Yesterday, everybody had 1 attempt at a lap. It went better for some than for others. You can see the lights on either side of the grid, and what a grid. That is some start grid, it really is.
15 seconds.
Proper backdrop, 15 seconds from race control. Here we go. Time to get Sébastien Loeb launched into the first ever lap of an Extreme E course. Green light and Loeb is away from the line. Wheel spin, dust from the back of the car. And finally, we're away. This is it now. It's competition time. Extreme E starts right now in Al Ula, Saudi Arabia. Couldn't be more excited to get stuck into this. So down towards the first corner, Loeb over on the left-hand side of the track. We saw a lot of people taking different lines down through here yesterday. I think trying to figure out what they're going to do when they're 3 cars wide. Loeb, though, at the minute is on his own, coming up towards the first corner. Just have a look at this at the minute. On board with Loeb, pretty high up the speed there. 125 miles an hour is top speed for these. He's smooth through there, and then it's the gate to the right and then to the left. So, Jenny, that's when they're going to have to get in a line when there's more than 1 car. And it's important because that's what's happening tomorrow.
Yeah, some of these sections you can see Loeb just getting a bit of air there as he goes across one of the tracks that runs parallel with this course. So that bit, a real sort of run where they've got to jump up and down. Delighted to say that in the commentary box, we also have Formula E race winner from last time out. It is Sam Bird. Sam, it's a delight to welcome you into the commentary box. You're a specialist now when it comes to electric cars. And what do you make of this, your first sort of eyes on qualifying?
This is a historic moment, isn't it, guys? Firstly, good morning, everybody. As we watch Sébastien Loeb, the first car ever to do a qualifying lap in Extreme E. And if you wanted anybody to go out first and set a lap time for your team, you've got absolutely the man for the job, Sébastien Loeb, the greatest rally driver in the history of the game, going out there and performing for Lewis Hamilton's team. As we see, what a magnificent shot that is going down the hill.
That's my favourite part of the course. 45 degrees, 100-metre drop, and then into a narrow section at the bottom again. And here we can see the difference in light again from yesterday. You know, he's going to come here, Sam, from the dark into bright sunshine. I know you guys experienced that in Formula E in a very different way. We're talking about buildings, of course, and the change of light really changes your perception.
Yeah, when you've got glare on the visor or on the windshield, it is certainly off-putting. It can make you brake slightly earlier. So changes of light can be extremely tricky things, and we're going to see, right, you know, over the next hour or so, changes of light through the ravines, through the rocks. It'll be different for every single driver.
Look at the different lines through there, lots of different tyre tracks through. They've got to make it up to the gates, but the gates are pretty wide. There's a red and a green flag on each of the gates. Some of them are marked as course markers, which you'll have seen on our graphics earlier on. So there are 8 gates which are actually marked, if you like, as waypoints around the course. But there are many more gates than that for the drivers. So the drivers have to be able to see the next gate from the previous one. Now, there are sections of the track where that can be up to 2.5 kilometres, but there are sections like this where we either want to put them through a chicane to liven it up a bit, or because of the elevation change, they just need to see the next flag a little bit earlier. So don't get yourselves too confused with it. Basically, think of it as they just must get to the next gate.
Yeah, always a marker on the horizon for them. As you can see, it's a pretty expansive desert. And a couple of the drivers actually reporting yesterday in the shakedown, Matthias Ekström was one of them, saying he got a little bit lost in the sand a couple of times. So making sure you know your course. They've only had one run of this so far. It's pretty vital to getting a good track. Now, this section is a fast section where the sand is compacted a little bit more and you can pick up some real speed before you go down the fast downhill section.
That section there as well from the side, that wonderful shot we had, I think, oh, mistake for Loeb. Loeb with a big mistake, drops it off the side of the sand dune now, got to try and drag the car back up to the top. Enough traction and enough power, but that is a big mistake by Loeb there, Sam.
That's vital seconds gone now. It's going to be, he's got to compose himself, make sure that there's no more mistakes in this run.
I'm quite surprised by that, to be honest. It was...
He hit a dip, didn't he? And then it just sent the car the wrong way, but he gathered it up pretty well, as you would expect, yeah.
On board, you can see he doesn't look too flustered. We're only talking, what, Sam, 3-4 seconds, maybe not even that. But of course, it's not just the mistake, it's the momentum after the mistake.
Yeah, look, this is the first lap that's ever been done in qualifying, so we're yet to see just where this puts us, to be honest. This could be a super quick lap, this could be not so super. Let's find out.
Right, so he's going to turn left now. This is the final marker point on this course. So he'll turn left towards the switch zone. And this will be the first time any of us have seen a live switch take place. So just to clarify, 45 seconds is the minimum time that they can take for the switch. So they have to lower their speed. There's also a penalty if they go too fast. And Sébastien Loeb will switch with his fellow driver, Cristina Gutiérrez.
So you can see there Loeb braking very hard, as late as he possibly could, just as you would if you want to compare this to a motorsport you may know a bit more. We're talking pit lane speed limiter. So you need to brake as late as you can, down to the speed, hold that speed up to the switch zone. Loeb is out the car. Only 3 people can touch the car at this point. In goes the seat insert for Gutiérrez. So that's not going to move her far forward because her and Sébastien are a similar height. One of the reasons they may put the guys in first is that they're slightly bigger as a general rule than the girls, and it's easier to tighten the belt than it is to loosen them. So in theory, it should be a faster change. Now, that may change when we go racing, because tactically, you may want to put in the female or the male driver first, and that could be because of speed, it could be because of the switch speed. You can see Gutiérrez is in already. The belts are on. She's looking across now at the time. If she leaves early, there'll be a penalty. She's waiting on the button, and she pushes the button. Now, outside the car, there are indicators on the car which, Sam, tell everybody what mode the car is in. And you have a similar mode system in Formula E. We're about to see Gutiérrez do a lap, tightening down the chest belts as well. Really important to get those tight.
Her heart rate will now be 150, 160. Adrenaline will be coursing through her body. It reminds me very much of a endurance racing driver change. You know, I've had to do many of them with Ferrari, and it feels like that. You know, you are super pumped before then coming out of the pit lane, and it's effectively the same thing that we've just seen just there for Gutiérrez.
Look at the run down to the first corner, Jenny, from the switch zone. Looks even longer and straighter. Flat out on board now with Gutiérrez. Listening to this. Absolutely just whistling away at super high RPM. And really hard to judge braking points because they're not, most of these guys are used to an engine and gears, and when one of the things of switching to electric, some of the drivers have said, is their reference for how fast they're going isn't there.
When I first drove Formula E, I was amazed by the lack of noise, you know, but now for me, it's completely normal. I'm used to hearing now tyre squeals, the sound on the curbs, the sound of the dampers, the whine of the electric motor, the drivetrain. So these are all things that these drivers will be getting used to.
Yeah, Gutiérrez also getting, as you say, getting used to the bumps, the elevation, the changes. I mean, she's got plenty of Dakar experience. She was the first woman to win a stage of the Dakar. I think since our very own, yeah, absolutely, in 2021, this year. So she's going to make her way towards that big drop-off zone, and this is where you've got to get the entry right, isn't it, Sam?
Yeah, I was just thinking, Jenny, for me, there's absolutely no question on Sébastien Loeb's ability or Gutiérrez's ability, but for me, the qualifying position will be pretty much on how quick Gutiérrez can be in comparison to her female compatriots.
Why is that, Sam? Because of the depth in talent that we've already got on the male side. It's, you know, the whole point of this is to get equality, and we're going to see the best girls in this, aren't we? Because there's both people in the car count towards the lap time. They both got to do the do. And so the pressure, whilst this is a huge opportunity for the female drivers, it is also an immense amount of pressure because you've got to get the job done now.
It is an immense amount of pressure. And also the female drivers, not many of them have got rallying experience. So it's going to take them a little bit of time to get up to speed. So I think the female drivers with some experience in this field certainly have an advantage, like Gutiérrez.
Yeah. All the drivers coming from different disciplines. Of course, the same counts for the male drivers. We've got the likes of Jenson Button, who come mostly from a circuit racing background. Jenson has done Baja and things which will be to his advantage, but I think we're expecting, personally, I'm kind of expecting the experience of off-road to be the most important thing.
I think that's the fascinating journey, isn't it, with this? We don't know quite how it's going to work out. We don't know who's going to be the fastest, and we're excited to see.
And also, the time trial, Jenny, is a completely different discipline from the race sides. There are going to be people like Gutiérrez, Carlos Sainz, tons of experience off-road, but not so much experience wheel-to-wheel. You know, that's the point at which maybe the likes of Jenson Button and Chadwick, okay, they maybe lack off-road experience, but they're going to have the experience of wheel-to-wheel racing. So, you know, they may have a slight advantage there. Or you could say, no, do you know what? It's going to be the rallycross guys who've got experience of both. So it's a fascinating journey, which you guys are all on with us. Hope you're loving it. 9:22 is the time at the moment. Waiting to see where Gutiérrez is. Our drone is up.
You can hear her.
Yeah,
she's still running.
Going.
There we go.
There we are.
Back on board with her. And I have to say, the visibility of what these drivers can see is extremely limited, Sam. And when they're going through those gates, as Gutiérrez comes through both those gate markers and down the hill on the fast downhill section through that sand, it's a pretty tough challenge, isn't it, for these drivers?
Yeah, Gutiérrez has just negotiated the area where Seb Loeb had his little moment. She got through there absolutely fine, which is good for her. It is super difficult to pick braking points, turn-in points at the moment. She's probably looking at the grooves in the sand from the day before, trying to pick her turn-in points. But this circuit will change and evolve as the qualifying and the racing goes on. And the more grooves in the circuit, the slower, potentially, the course could get.
Gutiérrez is impressing me here. She's on it very much. You can see she's done, I think, 4 of her Dakars. I think we're in the T1 class, which is a very similar size and weight of car to this, obviously with an IC engine, internal combustion. And then she did it this year in a buggy. That was when she won the stage. Jutta Kleinsmith, as Jenny said, was the last one to win it. That was back in 2005. Backs it into that last corner just a little bit. She's kept it smooth, no mistakes. It'd be a big relief now as Gutiérrez comes around to take the finish for the first time. And that is our first ever Extreme run completed. It's a 10:48.067. So 10:48.067 is the benchmark for everybody else.
3 minutes on the start grid.
That's race director Scott Elkins, you can hear, and he's saying 3 minutes on the grid for the next car. Gutiérrez tightens the belts down at the end of the run there, Sam. She's all fired up, isn't she? Look at that.
Take a breath, take a breath. Guys, we have a time.
Yeah.
We have a time to work.
First one ever.
Fantastic, yeah, absolutely.
And that is mission control.
It looked like a very smooth lap, didn't it? It looked like there were no issues. She did a good, solid job.
Not too much risk. I mean, we saw more of a risk from Sébastien Loeb with his tiny little issue. Great job.
Hello and welcome to Saudi Arabia. The amazing landscape you're looking at may look like it's from another planet, but Al Ula is a desert location about 250 kilometers from the Red Sea and a rather sticky 10-hour drive from Saudi capital, Riyadh.
It's a wild and unforgiving place for our first X Prix with a car-breaking course, touring through canyons and deep sand and over sharp rocks. Before we get going, let's get you up to speed with the Extreme E basics. Wow. So Q1 was exciting. It really was exciting this morning. Sam Bird is alongside myself, Andrew Coley, and Jenny Gow in the commentary box. Sam, it had just about it all, didn't it, really?
Well, we've been in here for many hours now, Simon. The day started early for us, but first quali flew by, didn't it? It was super exciting. It had everything. Had some great skill, had drama, it had barrel rolls, it had punctures. It had the lot.
Yeah, it did. It certainly did. We had some serious. I think we had more. I mean, Alejandro Agag would have been hoping for an exciting first session. I think that would have exceeded everybody's expectations by a mile. Unfortunately, not in a great way for two of the teams. So we're not sure yet on whether or not we're going to see the cars from Veloce and also from who's the other team that had the? Of course, Ekstrom with Cupra and Hertgen and Cupra Apps. So we're hearing that probably they're not going to make it to the line.
Just seen a lovely image because in this championship you are restricted to how many people can actually get hands on the car. Matthias Ekstrom was there trying to help rebuild that App Cupra car. So everybody hands on deck. This is the command center. It's telling us qualifying is ready. And 3 minutes. That was the voice of Scott Elkin, our race director. He'll be up in the control tower telling us what's going on. And a familiar name for you, Sam, because he also does the Formula E races. So you've sat in a room with him many a time.
One of the best, if not the best, race directors that I've ever worked with. Really professional, and he will listen to the drivers and take their views on board. Especially with a growing championship like this, it's important to have someone like that.
So let's take a look around the course again. I know you've had a little brief look already. That down at gate 2 where it says gravel, that's like a dry riverbed. I suspect it was a long time since there was a river here. It's narrow, there's a dip in the road, and we're finding that's cutting up a little bit. Gate 3, up towards the top of the hill, you've got the big drop. At the bottom of that big drop is where we saw the huge roll for Stefan Sarazan as he crossed the road, which is just down in the valley before gate 4. Gate 4, probably where Arlen Kotlinski had the problem and the car came to a halt just briefly. The sandy section in the back here is where Loeb went off the road. Jenny, most of this course has caused an issue for somebody at some point. It's tough.
It is a really tough course. 8.8 kilometers, but actually there are perils and dangers everywhere you go. It looks like desert, it looks like sand, but actually there's so much more depth to it because you've got this varying kind of stability underneath the car.
It's such a three-dimensional course as well. Sam, you know, you've been around some wonderful racetracks. I know places like Spa, Brands Hatch, you know, Laguna Seca. In the world of motor racing, we have some wonderful roller coaster tracks, but it's still not quite like this.
No, this certainly is something that I've not experienced before, but I'm enjoying watching the course evolve. So we would rubber a circuit in and it would get quicker and quicker. What they're doing here is they're laying troughs basically in the sand, and it's making it trickier. Sébastien Loeb was first out this morning. He had the cleanest track, let's say. He's now going to experience, he's going to go out second, obviously, because his female compatriot will go out before him. He will experience now a pitted, troughed circuit for the first time.
It's going to be very different, isn't it, for the car? And they switched round now. So before, mostly it was the male driver that went first, and in the second it was the female driver. Now they switch roles, and it'll be the female driver whose turn it is to go first. And then, in this case, Sébastien Loeb will have to go out and stay in that switch zone to take control.
On the start line, Sébastien Loeb's teammate. Interesting now because, as Sam was saying, the course has developed quite a lot. Now, first time out, you would have found that Gutierrez would have been guided a little bit by Sébastien Loeb potentially on the conditions, but the conditions where 8 cars have passed over it twice since have changed quite a lot. So now it's Gutierrez's turn to pass that information back to Sébastien when he jumps in the car. In terms of overall time, you can't really compare. She's away from the line now. We can't compare first lap to second lap because the run from the switch zone into lap 2 is completely different from the run from the start into lap 1. So if you're looking at the lap times, you can't really compare them. It's about times within the session, who can go quicker against, as a pairing, against the other cars.
Gutierrez, Spanish 29-year-old, and she knows sand. She's a Dakar rally specialist, I suppose some could say. Finished 5 Dakar rallies. She's extremely successful at this, brings a real knowledge base to this championship, and her, as well as Loeb, really, really good team.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's great. Do you know what? It's great to see these girls hustling the Odyssey car around this course. It really is. I've got to say, I'm thoroughly enjoying the spectacle. I mean, Cristina has a wealth of experience in comparison to some of the other girls out there. But
proper off-road driver, isn't she? That all her experience is this kind of... and it's important, isn't it?
And it will take time for some of the other girls to adjust to this skill set.
And some of the other guys.
And some of the other guys, absolutely.
Like, I mean, if you went to do this, Sam, like, let's give it a bit of perspective. You know, you're a guy, you're at the top of your game in Formula E. Really, honestly, if you went here, where would you expect to be? And you would be as honest as you want. I mean, obviously, you can't say I would win because I'm Sam Bird.
I would want to be at the sharp end, but in all honesty, I'd be totally out of my comfort zone. This is not something that I've experienced before. It's a different skill set, different way of thinking as we go up into the ravine section here. How does she do? Last time, it was a little bit scrappy. She's got it better this time, actually.
Very nicely done by Gutierrez. Just a little hop down. See how she approaches the section where Sarrazin got it so badly wrong this morning. Get a few rocks getting exposed here and there, and it is going to be important picking your line through these sections to make sure that you don't do anything to damage your car, your tyres in particular, obviously. It's a big part of this sport is judging how much of a beating you can give it. I mean, we've seen a couple of people have given these cars a serious beating in all the wrong ways in the first session.
Now the bumps are being beaten out.
Yeah, it's not indestructible is what we're saying. So although, you know, we want to see them attack it as much as they can, Sam, but in the same way you have to look after your car on a circuit, they've still got to judge what the car can take out on our course. We're
still learning here in the commentary box, but the guys there at the track, the men and women, they're still learning about the Odyssey car, what it can achieve, how it handles, what you can put it through during the course. She gets a massive oversteer there.
Okay, the thing is, having seen that first session when we saw Hertka and Jenny get really badly penalised for just a little bit sideways, it kind of makes you hold your breath when people are making small mistakes, and you're going to get away with some and not others. This is that little dip where they have to cross carefully. They're all straight lining that now between the two gates.
Yeah, there seems to be more of a pattern, doesn't there, developing, although she's taken quite an inside line.
I was looking to see if that was potentially... We still haven't quite figured out where Carl Leduc crashed yesterday. He said he took the split line. He went to the left of a rock outcrop, and I wondered if that was it. He stuck it in behind. Do you remember, Sam? We watched the onboard this morning. We haven't managed to figure out where it was. They looked like there might have been a small shortcut there again, sideways over the road.
Good
Almost
girl.
Carlos Sainz style, yeah.
That was really nice, actually. She recovered, didn't she?
Sideways again, and this time she has to correct the car and bring it back onto what, you know, the main part of the course. You can see it just stepped out towards those sections of grass, and you know, Sarrazin would have got away with that moment if the car hadn't speared off to the right and clipped one of the sections of grass.
Yeah, the rear end of this now seems a lot looser than it was earlier on today. I don't know if the conditions have changed so much that the rear end would be sliding around.
That's the surface, Jenny, changing so much. This is this kind of groove section that Andrew was telling me about pretty much. You can see clearly now on the visual when you see on board, you can see where the cars have been driving, and if you're not within those grooves, if you go out of one groove and into another, the car is all over the place.
And the tyres are crossing those ruts sideways. You know, this is the section I think where Claudia Hertka had her off coming down the hill. Plenty of steering inputs for Gutierrez. I'm wondering if they've changed. The other thing, Sam, is, you know, they're still learning in terms of settings. Potentially they've gone back and gone, let's try this in the next session, especially as they're in P2. So they've got the luxury of, if they want, not having the best run ever, Jenny. You know, you're right up there. Let's try something, see if it takes the car a lot in the right direction or a lot in the wrong direction. And you go, do you know what? It didn't work. That's fine, because we're in P2. You maybe wouldn't risk it if you're in P6 or 7, right on the cusp of not making it through.
It's a gamble, though. There are big points on offer for this round. By the end of today, we'll have our first championship points award, and it's 12 points for the person that manages to put it in P1. Look at the angle that she's bringing that home in.
I agree, it looks loose at the rear. I do agree. So on the brakes down towards the switch zone now, having seen the penalty that was given out earlier on to Hispano Suiza, 75 seconds. And I think that means they were only speeding, I've got terrible maths, speeding by, it was 5 seconds per kilometre. I'm just going to get the calculator out. 75 divided by 5 equals, so yeah, 15 kilometres an hour over the speed limit led to a 75-second penalty. Out of the car, and in goes Sébastien Loeb. Now this time we're going to see belts needing to be lengthened.
She didn't do the clever switch that we saw earlier, so a different approach to this.
They're doing the belts for Sébastien, aren't they? See her seat insert on the floor.
Yeah, just chucked away, isn't it, Sam? That's what you do?
Yep. I don't need a seat insert. I'm, you know, tall.
Yeah, of course you are. Luckily, they're picking up as they go, because that is the Legacy project as well. They went to the beach the other day, down to the Red Sea. They helped with the Turtle project, and they cleaned a whole load of plastic off the beach. And that's one of the things about Extreme E. It is about legacy as well.
Loeb watching across to his team, who will have been timing at the side of the road. He's got the limiter on, and he'll cross. Look at the two white boards down at the bottom of your screen there. That effectively is the point at which he can light it up. So he's going to cruise down towards that.
To everybody watching at home, that is like
his run, but we're about to head down and have a catch up with Gutiérrez.
Cristina, it looked like a nice smooth run there. How was it for you?
Yeah, the second lap was very difficult to chance because it's very broken. The car now is less power, so it's totally different than the first lap. So I think we managed a lot with the car, and I feel a little bit less confident than the first lap, but it's okay, I'm here, and that's so important.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, you can see the car sliding underneath Sébastien Loeb, and he is struggling with this car as well. So I don't know what they've changed in the setup, if anything, but it doesn't seem quite as smooth a ride as they had in the first setup. And Sam, we were just talking about that switch zone before we heard from Cristina Gutiérrez.
Sorry, everybody. I just wanted to make the point, those white boards are effectively like the end of the pit lane. So as on a normal circuit, you would press the pit speed button, end of pit lane, and you go out on the track flat out. For me, guys, I think the car looks okay, but I think that due to reasons maybe that we don't know about, as Cristina just said on the interview that they're running at slightly less power now. So I think they're losing a little bit of time in a straight line, and maybe they're trying to make up for time in the corners, which is why you might see the rear of the car being thrown around a bit more.
Interesting. And if they are, then also potentially the car isn't pulling itself straight quite so much as it was before when you're jumping on the gas. Loeb, though, airing it out as the run down the hill. 145, close to 150 kilometres an hour down the hill there. Going to keep it smooth through here. It's funny, isn't it? You start to earmark the places where you think, ooh, thanks to earlier on today. 2 victims in the first qualifying session. Really hoping those teams can get the car repaired for tomorrow, come out and take part in the shootout, which will be for P7, 8 and 9. But yeah, according to our timing screens, we won't be seeing them in this session.
Disappointed for Veloce and for Abt Cupra, 2 big teams out of the running for today. As we said, hopefully they will be back by tomorrow to take part in the races. And don't forget, you're watching qualifying. It's a 1-car shootout tomorrow. 3 cars on track, all at the same time. And they call it the crazy race for a reason, I think. It's going to be incredible.
Yeah, yeah, certainly 1 car will go through. I mean, with 3 cars, I can't quite contemplate how we're going to keep up, to be honest, with everything that's happened.
I think we can just sit back and let everybody at home watch and enjoy it.
Well, yeah, it's You know, I might be tempted to rename the crazy race the Carnage race, to be honest, because we've had some of that today as well. So I think we're all looking forward to seeing 3 cars alongside. Format completely different on day 1 and day 2, and I think that's exciting too.
Absolutely. So this is Lewis Hamilton's car. He picked out the drivers. He picked the team to run the car as well. The X44 in that dazzling kind of purpley blue colour, just weaving in through the desert. A very different line for Sébastien Loeb there, going right over the bank of the road.
Yeah, notice that he turned in a lot earlier than what everybody else has done. Everybody else has been using the opening, and I think he's seen that everybody's been getting a little bit of air there where the tracks are starting to develop. He's taken a different line, different approach. I don't know whether it's worked or not. It certainly looks smooth.
This will be interesting because this, in the first run of qualifying, this is where Sébastien Loeb made a small mistake. Now, you don't say that very often, but he went wide and ran into the deep sand and just really struggled to get the car back on track. It looks like he's done a cleaner version this time.
Yeah, he got a bad bounce, didn't he? It pushed him off the edge of the dune. And once you drop off the edge of the dune, Jenny, gravity takes over, and with the sand, you can drop a long way down very quickly.
So many nerves in that command centre. So many people watching this car bounce around.
Especially after this morning, because they're looking at it and going, look, we don't want that to be us. We want to make sure you get through this clean now. You're taking a big haul of championship points. Remember, there are only 5 rounds. I think it's 12 points available today, 25 available tomorrow for the win. So there is a big haul of points available. You know, you compare yourself to some of those teams that you thought might be a threat, that maybe aren't going to make it, and you can take a big old championship lead here if you're in the top 6, and they are not.
And everybody said the likes of Sarazan and Jamie Chadwick, who were in the Veloce team, they would be a real threat for this championship. Well, they may well not score many points at all from this
Same
weekend.
with Extra.
Absolutely right. You've got to make the best of your time when you can grab those big points.
And these guys are in such a strong position. That's the thing. They were looking at how far ahead they were in the last one. Loeb crossed the line 11:07, so they were running P2. So it was Rosberg Racing with Christopherson and Taylor were P1, Loeb and Gutierrez for X44 were P2. And between them was only 4.5 seconds. Then the Acciona team, what was the gap back for them? Was almost a further 30 seconds, Jenny. So they really could afford to just wind it in a little bit and get a safe finish. They know they'll be top 2 in the standings.
If the power output was slightly less, that was a really mighty attempt from Gutierrez and Loeb, because their previous run was only 20-25 seconds quicker.
Yeah,
so I think that's a really, really strong first run from the X44 team.
We're going to head down and see if we're going to have a catch-up with the man himself as he finishes his run, Sébastien Loeb.
Sébastien, you've just completed your qualifiers. Where's your confidence right now?
Yeah, it was okay. We tried to secure a bit. It's very rough out there now, and we saw a few mistakes in the morning, so I didn't want to do a mistake. We had a good position in the first qualify. Just wanted to secure the safe position. It's what we did. I think we did a clean run. Not big risk, but we are at the finish. That's the most important at the moment.
And as a team, how happy are you?
Sorry?
And as a team, looking at you guys as a whole, how happy are you?
When I speak about what I just said, it's about the team. Cristina did a great job in the morning, in the afternoon too. So she's really fast. She has a good driving style, not taking big risks, but still fast. So I think we are, at the moment, it's more than we expected. We are on the line, so we have to continue like this.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So return this afternoon, first car out on track again for X44, and it's Cristina Gutiérrez and Sébastien Loeb, but this time Gutierrez going first, Jenny.
Yeah, and really charging across the sandy landscape and down this huge drop that we have, getting air and really gliding down there to try and take as much pace as she can into the bumpy section ahead of her.
Yeah, it was a good run. Interesting, Sébastien Loeb and her, I spoke to them the other day when they were in quarantine. That was the big sideways moment for her. And she was saying that it was a dream come true for her to be working with both Loeb and Lewis Hamilton. They're heroes of hers, and that Sébastien was a good teacher. Sébastien was shaking his head and laughing as if to say, I'm not. But, you know, you can't have many better teachers than a 9-time World Rally champion.
No, they'll both be learning from each other. This is a real coming together of great minds. Brilliant stuff.
Look at that, absolutely stunning. First day ever of qualifying for Extreme E. We really didn't know what to expect. I know you guys didn't know either. Do you know what? I don't think the teams knew. And Q1 this morning was an absolute roller coaster. Q2, a little bit calmer, Jenny, and I just wonder if they went into it, and particularly with a couple of cars that had issues, you were able to play it a little bit safer.
I think it needed to be honest. There was still some exemplary driving, there was still people pushing to the limit, but I think after the risks that were taken and the punishments that were dealt out in the first session, they had to be a little bit more conservative. Let's hear from Sébastien Loeb, who will be talking to us from the X44 car.
Well, congratulations, absolute leaders of the qualifiers. How are you feeling?
For sure, we feel okay, we feel happy. We didn't really know what to expect before we started the day. We saw a few mistakes from different drivers, a few problems for different teams. And for us, everything went well. So I think we had a good rhythm in the first loop in the morning, pushing hard, trying our best. Second loop, we just wanted to secure. Finally, our main rivals made a little mistake and in the driver change. So we won the qualifying. That's great. It's better than we could expect. So I'm really happy at the moment.
You both were arguably the most consistent team on the course. Was that part of the plan?
Yes, it's a part of the plan because I think it's important to be smart in the track, especially the second loop, because it's totally destroyed compared with this morning. So I think we need to be happy, and I hope tomorrow more and more things.
Tomorrow it will change slightly. You'll both be racing against your other competitors. How much will that change for you?
Yeah, for sure it will be very different. I don't know exactly how it will work tomorrow. I think if we race all together, it will be really tough in this kind of condition. I think if you are behind, it will be impossible to follow because of the dust. So we don't know. In this case, we need to take a good start, and it's what we will try to do. So, but looking forward to drive tomorrow. It will be even more challenging in the stage, I think, because it starts to be more rough because of all the passes of the car. So it will be hard work in the car tomorrow.
Cristina, Seb describes it as more challenging. Going head to head for you, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's totally new for me. So for me, it's so exciting, and I think we need to test me because I never did again, and so I'm happy to that.
Well, we look forward to seeing you both run that tomorrow. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So those are two leading drivers with Loeb and Gutiérrez just chatting there to Leila and Ali in the paddock. So let's take you back to what happened this morning and some of those big...
So here are the standings. Well, this is in fact where the standings led to on day two. These are your three races. So semi-final is going to see Loeb, Gutiérrez, Sainz, Sands, Christopherson and Taylor. Two of those cars will go through to the final. Crazy race. Hansen, Munnings, Bennett, Giampolo, Zonka, Button and Kotlinski. One goes through to the final, and we've got a shootout for the bottom two places.
Where is our driver? Is he inside already? Yes, he is just having some final chats with his team. I'm going to dive in very quickly. You can get that mic in there and we'll speak to him now. Hello, about to go head to head for our final. How are you feeling looking out at Alula Desert right now?
Yeah, I feel excited for sure. It will be the first time that we do something like that. So I think it will be very important to be ahead in the beginning of the stage, because after with the dust will be very difficult to follow, I think. So we will see. I will try to take a good start, try my best. We'll see where we finish that.
We look forward to watching you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And there you have it, ready for the semi-final to begin.
Well, I think we've got a good idea then, haven't we, of who's taking the cars on the run down to the first corner. It's Christopherson, Loeb and Sainz.
No bluffing.
No, they're allowed to change driver right up until about a minute before. But on this occasion, they're all ready to go, and I think probably Karun, in terms of sticking in a racer, do you think that's the right decision?
Yeah, I'm not convinced that I think they've all gone for the safe option, but I think going forward they'll try and mix it up. At least one of the teams will try and do something different, just to strategically try and mix things up a little bit.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so this is our course fly-through, VR course fly-through for you. That effectively is turn 1 down by the Continental branding there. It kind of narrows into a funnel. It's a right and a left. And Jenny, that's why the Loeb squad have chosen the inside line. I mean, it's a mile away. I'm not sure it's going to be the deciding factor.
Yeah, they've got to give themselves every possibility. 5 minutes, you can hear race direction saying, until the start of this first semi-final. Through Gate 3, and this is the great part, the hill and the ravine with that big drop-off, 45-degree angle, and then they can get on the gas. Very kind of dense sand around that Gate 4 area.
I'm interested to see this back part of the course. Yesterday, most people were on a set line, which, okay, is probably the fastest line from point to point. But if you're going to want to see out of the dust, I think we might see people taking alternate lines to try to find a way through. In theory, if it's the longer way round, it's not going to work. But looking at yesterday, you just don't know.
I'm so excited because we still haven't had 3 cars going out at the same time. What we've had so far is 1 car going out on a time trial. Now we've switched things around, and let's see what happens. This could be carnage, it could be great fun, whatever it'll be extreme, I have a feeling.
There is the Acciona science machine being pulled out from the tent.
I like the fact that, you know, just looking at that wonderful graphic we had of the course here, I do like the fact that it's open. They just have to get to the gates and then they can go wherever they want. And it's going to be really interesting to see when they're side by side and as the course develops, because of course we're in the desert and it's going to change as the day evolves. By the time we get to the final, the line that you've taken here in the first race of the day is going to be wildly different to what we get later on.
That is turn 1 that we can see down there, and you can see a couple of the course cars heading out to their marshal positions. Here is your starting list. So from P3, it's Kristoffersen and Taylor. From P2, Carlos Sainz and Laia Sanz. And from P1, on the pole, if you like, Sébastien Loeb and Cristina Gutiérrez choosing that inside line. Karun, Sam yesterday said he wouldn't necessarily want to be in the middle of the grid. Your thoughts on that?
3 minutes.
I think it's going to be... We just got to see, haven't we?
Yeah.
You know, in terms of the way... Because you've got certain rocks, you've got certain, you know, those tufts that caught Stefan Sarrazin out yesterday. So, you know, it's a long run to that, as you mentioned, it's about 1 kilometer, isn't it, to the first proper corner. So they've got to pick their line carefully and just they've got to stay out of trouble. That's the first thing on the opening lap with the dust.
Well, let's go down to our command centre, have a listen in.
Inaugural Desert X Prix. It's time now for our semi-final. Let's welcome the teams X44, Acciona Sanz XE Team, and Rosberg X Racing. Our teams are set. We're ready to race.
So the command centre giving us a real insight into what these teams are feeling and letting us see what the action is developing behind the cars.
2 minutes we're hearing until the start of this. There is the grid. Some backdrop has to be said. Quite fairly wide gaps between the cars. First time we've even seen 3 cars on the grid.
Yeah, but it's a fantastic lineup of the 3 teams. I mean, I've just done a quick bit of math, and I can count 22 World Championships, FIA World Championships, between the team bosses or team owners and drivers in this semi-final. So it's an amazing lineup of drivers and team owners here. I think you could see where Loeb is parked there, left of our screen, right of the track. There's actually got a bit of camber in the road. The right side of his Odyssey vehicle is leaning over, and I wonder what that's going to do for traction off the line.
Looking at Kristoffersen's car as well, so have a look there at where the ruts were yesterday from the start. Different cars started from each of these different grid boxes, but Kristoffersen has parked the car outside of the dug-up area, so he straddled the rut effectively, and I think that will be to try and find some extra traction. Also look at Loeb, there's a section of road, Jenny, you can see where there's a road through the desert which curves across. He and Sainz have both got across. Do you see this little ridge either side in the road there? So I think traction and this run down, I think we're going to see hyperdrive as well, Jenny.
Yeah, remember, Sainz not used to being door banging. Basically, he's not a racer when it comes to having side-by-side contact. So for him, this is a little bit into the unknown. He's a rally driver. It's clean driving.
They were the team that I thought might do what Karuna suggested and flip the strategy, because with Kristoffersson being absolutely used to door-to-door racing, Sébastien Loeb as well, rallycross, world touring cars, you know, I thought maybe they'd send Laya Sands out, but they haven't. But Laya's getting ready. We're good to go. Time then for the first ever semi-final for Extreme E from Al Ula in Saudi Arabia. Who is going to get the whole shot? It's about a kilometre down towards turn 1. Are they going to use hyperdrive, that extra boost of power for 4 seconds? That could just give them the lead they need. How bad's the dust going to be? Nobody knows. We're about to find out. Here we go then. Green light either side of the grid. Loads of wheel spin from everybody. Kristoffersson looks to have got the best traction on the outside line. Going to try and squeeze across. Oh, Loeb getting a squeeze into Carlos Sainz. Always contact between them already. Sainz has managed to edge Loeb. Loeb drops in behind him. Kristoffersson side by side now. Sainz is pushing him out wide. They're running across the dirt. Carlos Sainz with the whole shot. The driver who hasn't got any racing experience is in the lead here on the dust on the inside line. Sébastien Loeb looking to try and find a way. Loeb moved all the way. Sainz, sorry, has moved all the way across the right. Kristoffersson's gone left. Going to try and carry the pace through. Watch now. Sainz is blocking off on the inside. Loeb's got him. X44 with a whole shot. In the background, has Kristoffersson got extra exit speed with that line through? It isn't. It's Loeb in the lead. Where's Kristoffersson? No, Kristoffersson has.
Somehow they've managed to get through, and it's the Rosberg car that leads. But it's so difficult to see anything. Karoon, what is this like for a driver?
Well, I don't know, because I've never driven in dust layers, but look at Kristoffersson. He's broken away because of this dust. I think Loeb now, look, completely blind. And the biggest challenge here is you don't know where those rocks are. You don't know where these hazards that can trip the drivers up, as we saw in qualifying, are.
Kristoffersson with absolutely the right tactic. We cut down to the camera on the inside line and we could see the battle. Sainz and Loeb got themselves caught up in a fight between themselves. And Kristoffersson with that extra pace managed to edge them both. Look at the advantage now because of the dust.
Yeah, this is a critical phase here for Kristoffersson. He's got to make hay while he's got visibility and try and give his teammate, when she gets in the car, Molly Taylor, an advantage here.
So this is the big drop that they have to negotiate. A 100-meter drop at 45-degree angle. You can see the air that they got there for Kristoffersson. Now it's the turn of Loeb. Oh, a lovely jump.
Fantastic stuff. Look at the difference in dust on the different parts of the course. Yesterday we spoke about this. On down to the road section, the dust is much worse than it is in what I would call the heavy sand. And they're a long way back, Karoon. Acciona Sainz are a long way back.
Yeah, the gaps have really opened up, haven't they? And I think, you know, the big part of it now, I think Carlos has backed out of it a little bit just to get some visibility and get a clean run through. If you look at it, he's nearly 20 seconds now behind Kristoffersson, as we can see the graphic on the bottom left of your screen. Over 20 seconds, in fact. So climbing uphill here, this is, you know, again, you're going over this blind crest. But I can't even see the two leaders. You can see the trail of dust, but you can't actually see them. Sainz has dropped some way behind.
Now, this is something Sainz will be used to. As a driver in the Dakar, they set off at 1-minute intervals. The Dakar rally, if you're not familiar, is a long-distance rally. They do like 7 hours in the car sometimes. And it's actually held at the minute in Saudi Arabia as well. Saudi Arabia attracting some serious motorsport attention now. Formula E was there earlier on this year. So Sainz will be used to driving in the dust, but can he close that gap down? I'm not sure.
I think this is where the knowledge that they gained from yesterday and the shakedown will come into effect, because they have to pick a clean line. As you can see there, Loeb really struggling to get away from the sandstorm, in effect, that Rosberg car driven by Johan Kristoffersson has caused. You can see Loeb there almost unable to do anything.
It's really hard, isn't it? I think picking a braking point as well, Corinne, your braking points are quite visual. Okay, this isn't a circuit where you're going to nail the braking point to the 100th, but you still have a visual marker, and they're going to be missing.
And I think, you know, this race is showing us that the tactic off the line and that critical first braking phase into the first corner, where Kristoffersson, he chose a completely different line, didn't he? We had Sainz and Loeb across on the right. Kristoffersson stayed left, and the others, you know, the other teams, the Andretti team, the Hispano Suiza team, and JBXE will all be watching that. And I wonder where they're going to go, because you've got to do something different to your opposition, I think. And if they all end up where Kristoffersson did, well, then nobody gets an advantage. So there's lots to watch and play for next time around. But in this race, Kristoffersson is, I mean, he's doing a stellar job, isn't he? He's a driver, as you mentioned, did the fastest time. We believe yesterday, obviously, they got a penalty in qualifying, but he's looked so hooked up around this course straight away.
He's absolutely brilliant. If you're not familiar with Johan Kristoffersen, I'm sure we've got some people watching today for the very first time. 3 times FIA World Rallycross champion. That's a discipline where they drive on gravel and tarmac. He's also a rally driver. He's competed on snow, gravel, tar. He's won the Porsche Carrera Cup Scandinavia 3 times, touring cars in Scandinavia twice. Amazing.
Into the switch zone then. This is a first switch we'll see, so Kristoffersen will have to put on the limiter. You're seeing the Acciona Science car right now, but it's Kristoffersen who'll get to the switch zone first. He'll have to hammer on the pit limiter and hand over. Just wondering if we haven't seen Loeb for a while.
I'm thinking the same. We can see Loeb on the tracker, yeah, so Loeb's coming into the switch zone now, backing it in on the brake. So if they break the speed limit here, it's 5 seconds per kilometre an hour. Yesterday we saw some massive penalties, and if they leave early, button left 0.5 early yesterday, that's 25-second penalty plus 0.5.
Yeah, I mean, they're quite big penalties, to be honest, so it's more important for the drivers to be careful here. Molly Taylor, we can see running across to jump in and swap out for Kristoffersen. They've got, look at the advantage they've got. Sainz is just coming in to the switch. I'll tell you what, having raced in categories where you have to switch around, it's quite a challenge. When you've got a helmet on and gloves on, to get the seatbelts done properly, you have to make sure the seatbelts don't go underneath the hands device, the head and neck protection device you could see there. And it's so important. You see Sébastien Loeb helping out Gutiérrez with her seatbelts. But you've got to make sure you're comfortable, because if you don't get the seatbelts right, A, it's a safety issue, B, it's a real comfort issue for the driver getting in.
45 seconds is the minimum time in that pit stop, so obviously they've seen it at Rosberg and they've already gone out. Kristoffersen standing there, nothing he can do now. He's got to have faith in Molly Taylor, his teammate. Loeb and Gutiérrez have done their switch, so Gutiérrez now in the car unlimited. Let's go down to Kristoffersen and hear from him.
Johan, a substantial lead after what looked like a perfect start.
Yeah, the start itself was maybe not the best. I mean, but I had the worst grid slot, so I had a good plan, and yeah, stuck to the plan. And from there on, I just feel sorry for the guys behind. After the 3rd corner, there's not really a race anymore. It's just trying to survive, and I'm happy to see that Carlos and Loeb here, as no one is crashing and get hurt.
Brilliant to watch. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We think we saw Sébastien Loeb using his hyperdrive out of, well, sorry, would have been Gutiérrez, wouldn't it, out of the switch zone, and that's because that is the longest, fastest straight. It's actually from the switch zone to turn 1.
So what we should explain is hyperdrive. They get 4 seconds of extra power to use, and they can use it tactically. The drivers can use it wherever they want, whenever they want, and they get an extra 4 seconds of power. The best place to use it is obviously on a run up to a long straight or a hill, because it just builds that momentum early on to help you on your way.
Karun, looking at that start, we saw people, basically the top qualifier in each of these 3 finals has chosen the inside line, and I'm not convinced it's the best grid slot. You know, we saw Loeb go off the line and have to cross those 2 tiny humps. He then lost time. Sainz and him got in that little battle. I'm wondering if the outside line is the best place to be, and Hansen and Munnings have got that inside line for the next one. I wonder if they'll be looking at this and thinking about their tactics.
We'll see when we get to the next one. But I don't think it really matters. I actually think if you watch the throttle graphs and the way, you know, we can see these wonderful graphics here in green, which explain just how the drivers are applying the accelerator. When you watch it off the line, they're all doing something different, and that's to do with the uneven surface. You know, we could see it's quite soft sand here. There's some parts where it's more packed in. There's some bits where she's about to drop steeply downhill, 100-meter drop here. You can see the dust up ahead. Now, the issue, I think, is more, you know, where do you pick your positioning in terms of the surface and how you're accelerating through it. See the red light flashing there on the back of Cristina Gutiérrez's X44 car, Vega.
Gutiérrez going really well here. If they make the final, these guys, Jenny, I reckon they're a good bet for grid play, because Lewis has got a number of fans out there, and they'll be able to pick their slots. But Karun said we're not really sure whether that's going to help very much. It's about finding that traction away from the line.
You could be picking the wrong slot for all you know, because this is the very first one. And I know the people in the next semi-final will be looking at this, as you've said, and gaining the information and making out what to do, decisions based on that. Karun.
Molly Taylor's doing a great job. She's extending the lead here over Gutiérrez. I mean, she's She's got a great rallying pedigree, Molly Taylor. She's done a whole load of rallying. You speak to anyone out in Australia, and she's a name they're all very familiar with there. Very experienced, very quick indeed, and she's doing a super job. I mean, I noticed obviously Nico Rosberg is there in Saudi Arabia in the desert, fully integrated in with his team, and he'll be delighted with how this opening race has gone.
Yeah, contacted her through her website. Contacted Christopherson through Instagram and just said, hey, should we have a chat? Do you fancy racing for me? And this is about making new connections between all the different disciplines of motorsport.
I love the idea. You know, when you get a message from someone that says you've had a message from someone you do not follow, do you want to accept this message? And, you know, Johan's probably looking at Nico Rosberg and it's, really?
Someone's pulling my leg.
Yeah, but it's great that, you know, this is the era we're in, isn't it? You know, what's the quickest way I can get hold of him? I'll drop him a DM. And here he is, you know, leading with his teammate Molly Taylor. Molly, who won the Australian Rally Championship outright. We're not talking ladies champion. She thrashed all the blokes, and that's fantastic.
Yeah, her time yesterday really impressive, and she's showing again today her skill and aptitude for Extreme E. She was one of the, I suppose, hottest catches.
This is a great shot to just show how, you know, we're in this amazing UNESCO heritage site there, but you can see the course, you know, so undulating, and this is a part of the real challenge. But we're about to come to this bit where you know, you've got the soft sand, but you can see just from the level of dust, even within that, there's some bits which are harder packed than others. Here, you know, I think this is where having some rallying experience, because obviously, as you mentioned, we've got a lot of rallycross drivers.
Yeah.
But the surface in rallycross is compacted. There's a lot of science that goes into compacting the underneath of the top surface that you see in rallycross, and she now comes into this final section here where it is quite a hard surface.
Brilliant drive by Johan Kristoffersson off the start to get the whole shot. He took that wide line, carried the speed around the outside of Loeb and Sainz, who were battling it out, but it's Molly Taylor who brings the car home to win the first ever semi-final. They book a space in the final later on today. Is Sébastien Loeb and Cristina Gutiérrez going to take that P2, Jenny? What do you think?
Yeah, at the moment, they're 29 seconds. That was the gap behind them. So it'll be up to Hamilton's team to, yeah, they're just on that road section, so they'll swing it round to the left and get towards the end of this race. Lewis Hamilton and Nico Rosberg. It's a battle we've seen many times in Formula One for a world title. This one for a place in the finals. And it's Loeb and Gutiérrez who crossed the line. Gutiérrez, a great drive from her, just not able to close that gap to the lead car, but finishing in second.
They will know now that the absolute crucial phase of the final is going to be the start, and I think all the work they'll do now between there and the final will be looking at start tactics. Karun.
And they booked their slot. Well, we should, you know, let people understand this is obviously the semi-final, so the top two who finish in the semi-final, i.e. the Rosberg team and the Hamilton team, have now booked their spot into the final of this round. The Acciona team, they're not completely out of it, are they? Because there could be a situation where they end up in the final as well, depending on how things play out.
No, I think they're done now from the semi-final. They're out, but that means they have got their finishing position guaranteed. So by being in the semi-final, that means that they drop. I think they end up in P5 or 6.
Yep, I'll go with that.
Yeah, because the winner from the crazy race will go through to the final. Command center slightly calmer at the end of the race. We're learning along with you guys at home.
We certainly are. This is a brand new championship, and you can see the drivers just looking down at those monitors. They're just taking in all the information they possibly can. And those three cars, I love it. One of the mechanics said they tried to clean the car after this round and they decided not to bother. Let's go down to the paddock and speak to our winners. This is Extreme E. Early days. He always said that when speaking to you in the championship. These are the semi-final results. You can see in third place, it is Sainz and Sounds with a 106.82. Second was Loeb and Gutiérrez, 28 seconds behind the leaders. And then Kristoffersson and Taylor winning the semi-final and going through. The top two teams go through to the final later on today. Congratulations to our teams, Rosberg and Hamilton teams.
Come on! Do you want to say? Yeah. Then I put it out there.
Guys, we won want the audience to help us. Anyone scream for X44? Middle, RXR. Number one. Last one, Andretti. Is this one? Okay.
These are really big names and they're all badasses, but they're the underdogs and we can relate, so.
It's very difficult to pick with these teams. These two I've raced with for many, many years in F1, and they've kicked my asses at times. So we're going to go for you guys.
Nothing personal with Seb. Nothing personal. But Zach is a good friend. He promised me a good discount in the McLaren. We have a good relationship. But you were not so nice when we asked for a driver's change. You are similar, we are not so similar. You must hang in everybody.
I'm on your side now. I'm on your side now.
Well, in the commentary box, you have Andrew Coley alongside me, Jenny Gow, former F1 driver Karun Chandok, and down on the grid, our trusty reporter is Layla Annalee, getting our socks full of sand for us. The clocks are ticking down to the start of the race, and she caught up with our drivers.
We are on the pre-grid for the all-important final, the final of the inaugural Extreme E Desert X Prix. Sébastien Loeb here on my right. Sébastien, tell me, how are you feeling right now going into this all-important final?
I feel very happy to be in the final because that was the goal since the beginning of the weekend. Now we know it will be complicated. It's a very long way to the first corner. We have to use the push hyperdrive button, so it will be a tough battle, I think, at the end of the long straight. But we will see. I will do my best. We'll see where we are when we came back.
We look forward to watching you. Thank you very much. Very pivotal, that hyperdrive button. It looks like he'll be using it right from the start. I'm joined now by Johan Kristoffersson of Rosberg X Racing. Oh, you took a deep breath there. Are there some nerves going through you?
Not very much, but still have to breathe. But yeah, I'm looking forward.
Looking forward to it. Any particular game plan you have here? Because obviously the start is very important.
Yeah, I think, you have to try to cover the situation when it happens. So I think you can always have a kind of a plan, but I think you have to adjust very quickly just after the green light and see what the others do and how they play their hyperdrive and how then I will use mine in the best way. So let's see.
Thank you very much. Enjoy. It is a game of adapting very quickly. Of course, they don't know what their opponents are going to do. Let's ask. Oh, his eyes are closed. Andretti United driver here. I'm going to step in now. How are you feeling? You guys did shimmy into the race through the crazy race, and because of grid play, you got pole position. You must be feeling confident there.
Yeah. I was happy about the win in the crazy race, and yeah, super grateful to everyone that handed us their votes in the grid play. So finally, we're on pole position now, and I have the best starting position, and I'm going to try to use it. But yeah, the track, we've seen a lot of accidents. But I'm focused on the race. I know exactly what to do. I've got a plan. So I'm trying to focus and do my thing. And then we'll see where we end up at the pit stop. And Katie's going to do a good job after that, I'm sure of that. So
we'll let you get back to your focus, Timmy. Thank you very much. So there you have it. Our Odyssey 21 drivers are lined up for the absolute final of our Desert X Prix. Enjoy.
Well, there we are, drivers in the pre-grid waiting to go. They mentioned hyperdrive. That's the boost of power they might use on anywhere on the course, but particularly on the run to turn 1.
Welcome to the command center. We are in the Alula Desert, Saudi Arabia for our final. Let's welcome the teams. Andretti United, Rosberg Racing, and X44. Our teams are set and ready to race.
There they are down in the pre-grid. This is your lineup for the final. Timmy Hansen and Katie Munnings for Andretti United. In the middle, Johan Kristoffersen and Molly Taylor for RXR Rosberg Extreme Racing. On the right-hand side, Sébastien Loeb and Cristina Gutiérrez for X44. The teams are in the command centre. Nerves are rising. Karun, what have we got?
Well, they're going to be really pumped up. I'm looking forward to seeing Timmy Hansen versus Johan Kristoffersen, to be honest. The Andretti United driver, Timmy Hansen, was the fastest out of anybody from the earlier races we've seen. There was only 1.5 seconds between him and Kristoffersen. Sébastien Loeb was a full 10 seconds slower across the 5-minute lap. So he's got to raise his game, but listen, he's a 9-time World Rally champion. If anyone can, he can.
Just to set up this race, we have 2 laps, 2 drivers in each car. That means they have to come into a switch zone, change drivers. It's all of the guys starting. It could have been any of the drivers. That's the strategy they've chosen, and this is going to be an out-and-out fight down to the first turn.
And where it's going to get interesting, Jenny, as you mentioned, they switched drivers, and Molly Taylor, out of the 3 of the girls who are driving, who will be driving second, of course, in this race, was clearly the fastest of the 3. So, you know, just because one of the cars is leading, it doesn't mean it's over when it comes to the switch. I think there could be a few things that happen in the second part. Look at Timmy Hansen. He's really got a bit of a routine there, hasn't he? Sort of pumping himself up before the race.
The psychology of a racing driver is very particular, isn't it? You all know what you want to do for starting a race and how to get it nailed on to what you do. So excitement is building. It's Kristoffersen versus Loeb versus Hansen for race final of our first ever Extreme E weekend. We are almost ready to go.
3 cars wide on the run to turn 1. We saw traction off the line was so important in the semi-finals.
15 seconds.
15 seconds from race control. This now is that final point where the drivers are getting the cars into drive, getting their eyes completely focused on the lights. Look either side of the grid for the green and then watch to see who gets the best getaway. Here we go. Green light on the outside. Lots and lots of wheel spin for X44. Timmy Hansen with an amazing start on the inside again. He's absolutely blown them away. Has he, though, used hyperdrive off the line? Kristoffersen moving out wide, trying to move the X44 car into the dust of Hansen. He moves out wide as well. So X44 moving across the outside line. Sébastien Loeb going to try and make the cut back across. Johan Kristoffersen made that work in his semi-final. Timmy Hansen, though, miles out in front of the run. There is turn 1. They're gaining on him now. I wonder if they've waited to use their hyperdrive just a little bit later. Kristoffersen goes out wide. Now he's going to make the cut back and try and carry the speed through the corner. Hansen leads Kristoffersen right in behind him into the bumpy section now. On board with Kristoffersen. Let's take a look and see who's in front. It's Johan. Johan has managed to get in front again as he kicks the car really high. He managed to get that move done again, Karun, in turn 1.
Yeah, brilliant switchback yet again, as you said. But look at the visibility here. These guys are really having to struggle their way through this dust, apart from Johan Kristoffersen, who has pulled a blinder to get up to turn 2, clearly in the lead. And this is going to be a massive advantage for him and the Rosberg team.
Just look how difficult the driving conditions are. A real gap now starting to grow between Loeb at the back, and then you have, of course, Timmy Hansen, Andretti United. This is the long stretch up to, if you haven't seen any of the racing before, the big ski jump, I'm calling it, a 45-degree angle. Who's going to come out? It's the Rosberg car.
I think Loeb's got some sort of an issue there. He was really struggling up in turn 2. We'll see as the lap unfolds whether that is still the case. But up at the front, though, Kristoffersen has pulled a massive gap. Look, he's got that whole jump ahead. of the Timmy Hansen Andretti United car.
When we went on board with Hansen just a few moments ago, you could see that he was going slowly, almost as if he literally couldn't see which direction he was heading in. I'm pretty sure we're on board with Hansen now, heading down towards we are. So that's Hansen coming down towards the bottom. Karun, you were looking at the data, weren't you, for Loeb and Gutierrez? The green and red stripe at the bottom of your screen tells you when they're on the gas or on the brake, accelerator or brake. And it was very strange, wasn't it? So maybe, 27 seconds back. OK, maybe just the dust. There they are.
Yeah, maybe, because now that's sort of stabilized. But I think you're right there, Andrew, because there was a phase where he dropped back a big chunk of time, but it must have just been the dust. I mean, you could see here, Timmy Hansen is now flying along, and that gap that opened up to 20 seconds quite quickly, it's in sort of stabilized around that mark.
Such high speeds now for Kristoffersson in the Rosberg team. He's up to 135 kilometers an hour and just taps the brake. This is a tricky section. He's got to go over a couple of bumps, keep that car planted. We've seen his teammate before go through there, losing the rear end.
Nico Rosberg will be jumping up and down like a cocker spaniel in excitement. Look at the gap he's got, and he knows that he's got Molly Taylor coming next, who, as a former Australian rally champion, has been the fastest out of all of the female drivers this weekend.
And it's perfect for her, Karun, because Kristoffersson will be hoping to hand over and give her a clear windscreen out in front, nobody to pass. She will learn the passing trade as she gets into battles in turn one. But this is ideal for her. But she did have her moments on Saturday. Super committed, Jenny. It's not over until we get to the end.
No, absolutely. And I can tell you that Rosberg team picked up a penalty last time. They'll be super cautious going into the switch zone. They can't afford to do that. They picked up a 1-minute penalty. So it's costly if you get it wrong.
Yeah, that's right. It's 5 seconds for every kilometer an hour you are over the speed limit. So they'll be on the team radio to Kristoffersson. They can communicate from the command center back as he winds his way around the course. This is a really tricky section here. You turn left along that rock and then climb up before plunging downhill. Very soft sand as well. But he's coming up now towards the final bit of his lap, and it will be really important to hit his marks when it means getting on the brakes, getting it stopped before the speed limit line.
Kristoffersson comes through the section where Hurtgen had the crash yesterday, and then unfortunately again the contact between her and Chip Ganassi-Segi racing driver Carl Leduc earlier on in the shootout race. But this is the big one. This is the final for the first ever win, and Kristoffersson coming in with a 31-second lead. The switch zone time limit is 45 seconds at a standstill. The car must be in neutral for that time, backing it in now onto the road section. But absolutely crucial that they get this right, Jenny.
Yeah, they've got to nail it. So what they'll do, there are 3 bays. Each car must come into their designated bay. They have to stop. Only at that point can one mechanic, switching all over the place as he enters that slow zone, one mechanic and the driver go in and do that driver change. So you can see how slowly Kristoffersson is going, and Karun, that must feel like it takes forever.
It does, but we have to do it because it's safe for the mechanics and other people running around. Obviously, to help with the driver change, you're allowed one person to come in and help with the seat belts, and you have to have some sort of speed limit, especially when there are people, and the other drivers, of course, are going to be running around. As we can see here, Molly Taylor running around the other side of the car. Kristoffersson's done a great job. He's out, job done for the weekend. There's a sense of relief when you get out, because you know you've done your bit as a driver, and you hand over to your teammate.
They've got a brilliant system going there, Karun. You saw the mechanic come in from the outside with the seat insert to drop in. In comes Andretti United. Now Timmy Hansen will be disappointed to have lost out in turn one. Interesting to see the tactics, Jenny. You know, Timmy got that amazing start again that he got in the semi-final. No one could get near him. This time, though, he was out-tacticked on the run to the first corner.
Maybe he'll be beating himself up a bit more before the next start. Maybe that'll help
may well.
It was certainly an interesting start regime from Timmy Hansen, but Katie Munnings knows she's got a lot to do. Is she just trying to clean... Are they trying to clean the windscreen a little bit? They've certainly picked up a yes. That is actually Timmy Hansen crawling across the top of the car, just trying to get some visibility back for the Andretti United.
Looking at the Rosberg racing machine, they've used the wipers, but you can actually see that on the driver's side, remember these are left-hand drive cars, the screen hasn't cleared that well. Hansen climbing onto the top of the car and just using his gloves to wipe the screen off. In comes Loeb now. They're a long way back. Gutierrez about to jump in. I mean, it must be 30 seconds between each of them. Sébastien doesn't look like he's in too much of a hurry there. Maybe they have had an issue, but out he gets. In gets Gutierrez.
Yeah, he was very relaxed, wasn't he?
Yeah.
He wasn't really, you know, there was no real sense of urgency there, although The Andretti United car is now heading out. Katie Munnings, the British rally driver, but look at the gap already that this Rosberg car has pulled out. Katie Munnings, we can see on the graphic there, coming out of the pit lane and will be using the hyperdrive straight away. You can use about 4 seconds of it to give you a boost of power, and using it coming out of the switch zone is very useful because that leads you onto the longest straight on this course.
Gosh, you can really see looking back, can't you, the distance, the lead that they've managed to get in that Rosberg X Racing machine, and they're really now plowing out through the desert, and it's going to take a real struggle for Munnings to try and claw that back. And you can see Gutierrez again using that hyperdrive. Each driver gets their own hyperdrive. She's used that out of the switch zone as well. So the battle is on now for them to really challenge and try and claw back.
Gaps are at 30 seconds between P1 and P3. Here's Kristoffersson.
Johan, how much of that start was premeditated versus impulsive?
Well, I mean, maybe 50-50. You have an idea what the other's going to do, and then, yeah, you just have to drive by your instinctive. So, I'm curious now to see what Molly can do, but I'm pretty sure she could bring the car home safe.
So that's what's key now for these guys with a 32-second lead. It's 33 back to Gutierrez. We're going to see the pace relative here between the three female drivers. Molly's in such a strong position here, but she's capable, like Johan is, of that ultimate pace. On Friday, we saw Johan on a massive push on shakedown, had a few moments. Saturday, we saw Molly doing the same thing, but Karun, this isn't the time for that, is it?
No, you know, and they'll be on the radio to her telling her that actually the gap, if anything, is extending a little bit, so she can be a little bit cautious. There are hazards around this course, as we've seen trip other drivers up. Stefan Sarazan, quality drivers like that, have had accidents so far already this weekend. Kyle Leduc, of course, we saw. So, you know, she'll have to exercise a degree of caution as she goes around the rest of this lap.
These onboard shots, great to look at. You can see and really compare what the drivers are doing, their style. You can see there, Munnings, visor down, very much like a pod racer, which is what Alejandro Agag said he wanted this all to be. She was on the right-hand side. On the left-hand side, you had Molly Taylor, very much an open face as she's looking out in that Rosberg racing car.
Seeing the expressions on their face as well. You know, Molly Taylor is almost completely expressionless, and then Katie is just there in full concentration mode. Down now, Gutierrez dropping in off the top.
Very cautious there.
Yeah.
She went over the top. When you compare it to the speed that the other two cars went over there, she's certainly looking much more cautious on this lap. And you can see the graphic on the bottom right. The Rosberg car coming up to gate 6 out of 8. So nearly now towards the end of this lap.
Yeah, coming down through the last section. The nerves will be coming in now. An electric car, you can hear all the mechanicals. It's nervous enough when you're in an IC car, wondering, are we going to get there? Is everything going to be okay? You start to ask questions. You don't want to back off too much and lose that concentration. She's just got a little way to go to get to the finish.
Certainly has, as she just puts her foot down. You can see the plumes of sand and dust coming out the back of that black Rosberg car as she switches it around, just trying to concentrate. So you can see there virtually where each of the cars are. You can see in the command center as well with Alejandro Agag there watching on, but Rosberg Racing has a clear advantage. They are miles ahead, it seems like, of Andretti United, and then in the background you can see the X44 Lewis Hamilton owned car.
The Andretti United team will be delighted to get second place, though. They've had a pretty tough start of the weekend. They've recovered very well. They've shown great pace. As I mentioned, Timmy Hansen set the best lap out of anybody on the in the 2 races we've had so far, or 3 races we've had so far. So they'll be happy with second place. But up at the front, Molly Taylor driving superbly, dropping down at nearly 100k as she comes through these dusty, bumpy sections of the course.
Absolutely fantastic drive from her. What I'm loving this weekend, we've seen great pace from all the drivers at different times. I think from a championship point of view, when we're going to be going to different places with different surfaces, this could be wide open. But at the minute, all eyes on these guys.
Yep, you can see Molly Taylor just feeling so at home already. We've only had a shakedown day 1 yesterday qualifying, and today they go into the racing, and she has shown what a talent she is behind the wheel of that car. It wasn't surprising Nico Rosberg chose her to come and partner Johan Kristoffersson. They make a wonderful duo together, and as she turns around to the final turn, you can see the Andretti United car aren't near them. They can't chase them down. This is going to be the one. This is going to be Molly Taylor winning the first ever Extreme E X Prix. She crosses the line. She has done a fabulous fabulous job, and no wonder she is smiling, because her and Kristoffersen have brought that car home for their boss, for the manager, for Nico Rosberg, the Formula 1 world champion, and they have shown a Herculean effort.
You can see the team are super relieved. Molly, no expressions until she crossed the finish line, and you saw Johan Kristoffersen left the command centre immediately, and I think he'll be heading straight down to that switch zone, Karun, to greet Molly when she comes in.
Yeah, it did look like more relief than joy, didn't it?
Yeah.
Command centre, almost.
This is the biggest platform that a lot of these drivers have ever had. They are aware of that. Jamie Chadwick couldn't compete this weekend. The car was broken, but they know this means a lot to them.
Yep. Gutierrez at the end of the lap hit Karun. I think the reason Loeb was looking a bit relaxed in the switch zone is they knew they had an issue, because she's been super quick all weekend, and they've just had to cruise it round to get to the finish. Yeah,
congratulations all round there from Timmy Hansen to the Rosberg team. And here comes Lewis Hamilton's X44 car. They're going to come out of the weekend with a podium, a solid haul of points. You've still got a long way to go in this championship. They've got a good team, they've got good drivers, and certainly I think with the extremely different conditions and courses we're going to be going to around this championship, it doesn't mean that just because you've not won here, you're not going to be the favourite somewhere else.
That's the first time I've seen anybody use the handbrake. She's really battling with the wheel. I wonder if they've got a problem with the power steering. Look how hard she's gripping the wheel. We saw that yesterday for Sarah Price and Carla Duke. So maybe that's what slowed them up. Yeah, you can see she's having to fight the wheel really, really hard. So well done, Gutierrez, for getting that back to the finish. They'll be disappointed, but they were top qualifiers, Jenny, and that gave them points as well. So they've taken some points off the others in qualifying. They've lost a couple in the final, but podium, you know, brilliant result.
Yeah, I'm just trying to do the maths, actually, and we all know it can be a little tense when you're trying to sit here and work out the live points. By my reckoning, Rosberg will now lead the championship with 37 points in the Drivers' Championship. Let's see how it goes. We'll wait for the official confirmation, but a really, really strong weekend for that Rosberg racing team, and they've done a great job.
We'd heard rumours from testing that they were extremely fast. You know, Molly, I say outright Australian rally champion, beating everybody, not ladies champion, outright, beating all the guys, and Johan Kristoffersen 3 times and reigning FIA World Rallycross champion. I think he's actually our only current world champion who's competing in this series, unless you count Lewis, of course, as team owner. But that's one for Rosberg instead, isn't it? Just a brilliant drive, and the other teams now are going to be, okay, that's the benchmark.
Yeah, I mean, fair play to Nico. You know, he's very actively involved. You can see him there in Saudi Arabia, but, you know, I think even behind the scenes, he's got Kimmo Lemetainen running the team, and Kimmo's been running Rosberg's, you know, DTM and Formula 3 teams for many, many years, and they've done a great job identifying the drivers as well as the technical crew around this team.
Love hearing that, the round of applause that everybody is giving this. A restricted number of people down on the ground, but they are applauding Molly Taylor as she climbs out the car. She just struggles with that door, puts her fist in the air, pumps it, and goes across to her teammate, Johan Kristoffersen. It's lovely to see the joy and the happiness there from Rosberg, from everybody involved in this project. It's so exciting when you see a nugget of an idea, a kernel that grows into something like this.
Karun, endurance racing is one of those times, isn't it, where, listening in, yeah, where you get that feeling of working with your team. Katie goes over to the Andretti United squad. They'll be super pleased with that. There's a lovely feeling of being in a team. It's like when you're in a rally car and you've got a co-driver with you. In an endurance race, you've got your co-drivers with you. It's a real team effort.
Yeah, that's right. I was just trying to listen in and hear some of the celebrations between them. Katie Munnings looked delighted as well, and she should be.
Yep, so third place, it was the X44 of Loeb and Gutierrez. They ended up a minute 38 behind our winners. Hansen and Munnings, Andretti United, 23.73 behind. But our winners, first ever X Prix winners in the desert, it is Kristoffersen and Taylor for RXR.
Well,
celebrating.
There they are, yeah, down in the celebratory area, I suppose, of Parc Fermé, we can call that. Yeah, it won't exist tomorrow. It'll all be packed up and taken away. Race without a trace. Everything and everybody that is here will leave the desert behind in a better state than when they arrived. There's the legacy program as well, of course, which they launched on the beaches a couple of 100 kilometers away.
Joined by team owner Nico Rosberg, who I'm sure if you didn't have a mask on, we'd see a massive smile on your face, wouldn't we?
Let's listen in.
How are you feeling?
No, it's insane. I mean, really, just so thankful to the whole effort that the team did this weekend. I mean, everything has come together so well. We worked together so well, and specifically Molly and Johan. What a phenomenal driving they've done all week.
Well, you could hear there a little bit of Nico Rosberg. We'll go back to him in a couple of moments and talk to him about his plight and the win. But let's have a look at what happened in the race.
Yes, but of course I could never be sure right now. I mean, just looking from
Off the start line, Timmy Hansen did what he did in the semi-final. He just got that incredible start. But it looked like Loeb and Kristoffersen were absolutely side by side. And then I wonder if they've used the hyperdrive a bit later. But for me, Jenny, it's that incredible move that Kristoffersen made again. From outside to inside, just carried a bit more pace through and came out on the exit of turn one. It beautifully executed, particularly with the dust. You've got to point these threading the needle at high speed. Look, you're on board with Hansen. Look, he gets sideways. Where's Kristoffersen? Alongside him, there he is, perfect.
That feeling of knowing that that car's just taken you, Karun, must be that sinking feeling, because you don't see anything around you. The visibility in these cars, not the greatest, so all of a sudden, they're just there, and there's nothing you can do about it.
And I think because you've got such a wide open space in the desert, and you know there is no track. All you got to do is get through the gates. Suddenly your frame of reference is completely different to if you were on a racetrack or a rallycross track. So big challenge, but they all did superbly. They kept it clean, didn't see any wheel banging on the run up to the first proper corner, turn two. And I thought on the whole that was some really high quality driving on the opening lap.
It's pressure for Molly to come in with a big lead and then to carry that. She kept the lead, extended it, but didn't take any risks. You know, I think both of them have tempered their speed with the risk to make sure that once they had the lead, they got it done. Look, over the road crossing, not fully lit enough to keep the gap, but not so much that you're going to damage the car. And as Karun said earlier, there was a look of both joy and relief, because you just all weekend you're aiming for this one moment, and this was it.
Absolutely, she crossed the line. The relief, the joy, all of the preparation they've poured into this. You can see a smile comes on her face. She talks through to the guys, pumps her fist. Good job, well done, Molly Taylor.
Looking really emotional, fantastic.
Sébastien Loeb and Cristina Gutiérrez of X44. An intense weekend, heavy racing, third place, but that's not bad. You must be happy with that.
Yeah, of course, we should stay happy, because all the weekend was very good, be calm at the beginning, and now we have very luck, because we broke the power steering wheel, so impossible to do nothing. So finally we are third, so this is the best thing.
And Sébastien, that start was highly entertaining. What was going through your mind then?
Yeah, for sure. The start is really important when you see the dust we have after. So we tried the best on the start, but entering the first real corner, we lost the power steering, and this kind of car without power steering is just undrivable. So and already we were behind in the dust, so it was no chance.
This is obviously a multi-layered event, and Cristina, working as a team, equal male and female. Walk me through how important that was for you.
No, for me it's so important, and for the girls too, because this is a great opportunity for us, because we have the opportunity to stay with these legends, and for the girls and for everyone it's a great opportunity too.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Spoke to Gutierrez just a few days before the event, and she said it was a dream come true for her to be working with two of her heroes. Lewis Hamilton, 7 F1 world titles. Sébastien Loeb, 9 world rally titles. So Gutierrez will be soaking up every bit of info she can, Jenny, to put herself on to the point where she's beating them. And to be fair, these guys were top qualifiers anyway, but they're going to have their eyes on Taylor and Kristoffersen. She'll be talking to Loeb. They'll be figuring out every little trick they can to close that gap at the next X Prix.
You never finish learning, do you? Even the most experienced driver out there at the moment will learn from their colleague, will learn from their teammate, pick up things all the way along this. Even just looking at, footage from this weekend, every chance you can get, you learn, you soak up, and you excel when you get back in that car. What a beautiful place it is for this first ever Extreme E X Prix.
The 2021 Desert X Prix. In third place, please welcome Cristina Gutiérrez and Sébastien Loeb of X44.
Loeb and Gutiérrez making their way up to the lower step of the podium. But they know they've got the pace for the win. There'll be some frustration here, Jenny, but you know, they made the final, and even with an issue, with only the 3 cars in there, you know, they know they're going to get a podium anyway.
Hansen of Andretti United Extreme.
Running to their second spot on the podium, a much more upbeat run, but who can blame them? They turned around what was a pretty much disastrous weekend with that puncture for Katie, and they've managed to just get onto the second step of the podium. Is incredible. And you can hear later in the background just welcoming our winners up to the podium. It is the Rosberg X Racing team of Molly Taylor and Johan Kristoffersen.
Absolutely brilliant drive by these guys. They looked rapid all weekend. I think there's a little bit of extra pace in there if they need it, but that would have been risky, and they didn't need it. Kristoffersen with 2 brilliant start moves, which got him the whole shot, got him the win in the semi and the win in the final. Fantastic.
So the national anthem there playing out for the team of Rosberg Racing, the German team, of course. You've heard that national anthem many a time before when it comes to motorsport, but Rosberg will be delighted to have managed to claim that first cup. They've put a marker down in the sand, and excuse the cliche, but they really have. When it comes to this championship, there will be 5 rounds, and they will aim to not just take this one, but take all of them if they can. So the constructors' trophy being handed to the boss, to the founder of this team, to Nico Rosberg, and a great start to his season.
That must be a slightly strange experience, Karoon, for Nico to be up there taking it as the team manager rather than the driver.
Yeah, I guess that's his first trophy as a team boss, isn't it?
He's done all right.
Yeah, he's done all right. That's a good start. I imagine, he'd be very excited about it.
So that's our 3rd place trophies given out, and then the 2nd place trophies. These trophies actually designed in a competition, which was great, and they're all made out of recycled pieces of material as well. So a really nice, innovative idea that we're bringing to this, and now it's the turn of the winners.
Kristoffersen and Taylor take round 1. The Desert X Prix 2021 goes the way of RXR.
Congratulations to all our teams. It's time to celebrate.
Good job. Really good job by the team. Good job by everybody. You can see it's a pretty small team. That's all there is on the ground. They are the ones that have been making sure that this Extreme E event can take place.
Well, that is 1 down. 4 spectacular Extreme E events to go. Next up on our world tour, we are taking the St. Helena to the coast of West Africa.